When you're asking a few friends and family for £1,000 for a tiny little short film, a micro budget short film, and you just don't have the experience to make anything work, it's going to be a wasted opportunity later on down the line when you're 3 projects in and you actually really need that money to make, and that you know that you can now deliver. It's difficult to go back to those people and go, hey, you know that first film that you gave me some money for, that wasn't great, I understand that now, but this one's going to be the nuts, like, trust me.
My name is Yanis Balodis, and this is Filmmaker Stories podcast, brought to you by JB Audio Post Production. This week we hear from freelance producer Nathaniel Francis. Nathaniel started out his journey in front of the camera, but quickly fell into producing after acting on a poorly produced production. I asked Nathaniel to discuss his experience of the producing world and his lesson learned along the way. For Nathaniel, it's all about giving 110% whatever work you're doing, ensuring you're always got another project or idea up your sleeve and ready to go. If you would like to hear more about Criminal Audition, the film he produced, check out episodes 3 and 7 for the other interesting accounts and stories. You can also stream film now on Amazon Prime, iTunes and Sky Store, but I recommend sticking around for this episode first.
I first had an inkling that I wanted to be a producer. Back when I was an actor, I was on a short film, and this short film, I got there, the times were given to me in the call sheet, which happened I think 10:30 at night, and I was supposed to be there at 6 in the morning, so I thought it was quite late. Next thing I knew, I turn up, the address they'd given me was wrong, the timings were slightly off, the crew were about 4.5 hours behind. No one kind of knew what they were doing, what was going on. It was just a really horrible, confusing experience, and I literally went, how can this have gone so badly? Whose role was it to make this run well? Obviously, unbeknownst to me as a producer, and I literally went, I could do this. It's the classic, isn't it? Oh, you see something go wrong and you go, you know what, I can do this. And that's what I thought I did. I got stuck into it. I did all kind of behind the scenes stuff. I did camera assistant, I did sound recording. I wanted to understand the crew and behind the camera better. I read books. I didn't actually do any specific courses. I did a couple of like directing and screenwriting courses at LFS and things like that, just so I can get a better understanding of how things work on set. And then I did my first short film with some friends, and that's kind of how it all started.
So what it's like starting out as a producer. Nathaniel stresses the importance of just getting out there and making sure you're always giving a project your best efforts.
When I started my kind of producing journey on my first short, it was not as easy as I thought it was going to be. Obviously, I had that idea that I could do this better than somebody else. And to be fair, for that project that I was on that was awful, that first project that I did was better run than that one. So I had achieved that kind of goal in my head, but I was still completely lost and out of my depth. I still had much to learn. And what I found over the kind of coming projects was that it's one of these roles where it's all well and good reading up and learning and understanding things, but you really have to just get down to it and just start doing it. It can be really small to begin with, and then you can build up in size of crew, in size of project. But when problems happen during any project, which they inevitably will do, it doesn't matter how large the project is, you have to deal with them as a producer. And I think that is something that you cannot learn from a book or a course. You just have to be part of the project and just jump in, basically. Producing is an odd one because I think you have two routes. You either go into a production company, you do the route of, I guess, a corporate side of things, or you go down the route of kind of a bona fide film production company that's quite large, work as an intern and kind of work your way up. Because I went through it a backwards kind of roundabout route, I actually started and built up my contact base by working on different projects. And from that, began to attach myself to different companies as a freelancer. So I would then continue working with these companies as a freelancer and kind of managing my time and my week around that, which was great during the beginning because it helped me allocate time for the short films, the kind of the more feature side of things, which was my kind of projection and something that I always wanted to do, but also made sure that the wolf was kept from my door and I could actually eat and survive and live. And that's not to say that there was enough work at the beginning. I was doing catering, I was doing extra work, I was doing acting gigs, all kind of paid as well. And I was also being a brand ambassador for companies, the classic, standing outside of London Bridge Station, handing out free drinks at 9:30 in the morning to really grumpy commuters. It wasn't an easy and simple, let's get into producing and hey, look, the big bucks are rolling in. But that's life, or that was life for me anyway. And I think with any job or with any project or with any kind of thing that you work for, you have to give your 110% per project, per job, even if you don't feel like you want to, because as soon as you sign on and you say, yes, I'm going to do this, the project deserves the most from you. And if you don't give it, I don't think that I would have had the kind of recurring opportunities that I have had from these companies.
Next up, Nathaniel offers some tips on how to get the ball rolling with your first few films. Listen out for his useful advice on creating a proof of concept film and having more than one project in the pipeline.
So right now I work for 3 different companies. One is a digital first company, one is a corporate training video company, and one is a kind of theatre and ad work company. I also do my own freelance bits, which kind of entail mainly the ad route. However, I had some TV stuff from that freelance bit. And alongside all of that, I'm still moving forward and pushing forward feature films, which, as any filmmaker will know, is a long, arduous process which takes just time and effort. And sometimes it just takes the right time for things to work. You may have all the pieces in places, but it may not be the right time for that project. And that's something that you just kind of have to, I guess, learn or live with. So you need plenty of kind of work and projects around you to keep going. So when you first start out making short films, you're going to be making with a few other people. It's going to be very relatively low budget, if no budget at all. And you need something to have a proof of concept, even if you're going towards the kind of crowdfunding route. Because even when you're asking a few friends and family for £1,000 for a tiny little short film, a micro budget short film, and you just don't have the experience to make anything work, it's going to be a wasted opportunity later on down the line when you're 3 projects in and you actually really need that money to make a project that you really believe in, that you're passionate about, and that you know that you can now deliver. It's difficult to go back to those people and go, hey, that first film that you gave me some money for, that wasn't great. I understand that now, but this one's going to be the nuts. Trust me. And they just go, okay, well, I'll give you a £5 this time. And last time they gave you 50 quid. So I would save that until the last moment. I mean, you will need some money to start. Either you earn it yourself, you group together as a kind of a collective, or just ask parents who will always support you for the most part in those kind of first early beginnings. And it doesn't have to be much. Like I said, you find passionate people that are around you, and you need a little bit of money for kind of I wouldn't even say equipment, because a lot of the times these days you can go to rental houses, you can make fantastic deals. And I know Panavision do some incredible student first-time young filmmaking grants and production packages for kit and everything like that. There is stuff out there, and obviously you've got the web. Go search. There's so much out there now for young filmmakers to start on low or no budget whatsoever. So do that first. Build up your kind of experience. For God's sake, you've got a camera and video in your pocket. All you need is good sound, and you're good to go. You've got a 4K video camera in your pocket. So just go out and make stuff. And once you've made it, once you know what you're doing, then go build up your package, crowdfund, ask for larger amounts of monies, and make a proof of concept short film. And I say a proof of concept short film because one thing that I regret, because I didn't know at the time, was I made short films because I loved them. They were great, but they had no vision as to where they were going. The short films that I made were just fantastic standalone pieces, and I didn't want to make feature films off the back of those short films. However, make a short film which is either a scene or a collapsed version or a segment of a feature film that you would like to make. That way, you've made this short film, you now have a proof of concept that you can take to agents, to financiers, to distributors, to people who have money, and you can now build up what you need to make a feature film. It's very difficult, I've noticed, that people that have money or want to give you money potentially, even if it's grant-based and we're going down the BFI route, for them to see a project which isn't the exact project that you want to make as a feature film. And they go, yes, you look in the grant, you look in the applications, and you'll talk to people and they go, yeah, of course I can imagine that. That's fine. And I know you can make a short film. That's great. But this is a sci-fi thriller and you wanted to make a sci-fi drama. And you're like, yeah, but I mean, come on, it's not that far off, right? You could like leap and use your imagination. They're like, oh yeah. They can't. They really can't. So make the short film basically a smaller version of what you want to make for the feature film. I mean, like, people have done it in the past, like Quentin Tarantino. He made Reservoir Dogs, and then he made Pulp Fiction. It's the exact same film, but Reservoir Dogs was the smaller, low-budget version because he couldn't get the money for Pulp Fiction. And so it just makes sense. Like, obviously, looking back, you kind of go, oh, well, obviously. But sometimes it just takes someone to just go, that is the obvious thing, you need to do this, and then it just clicks. That is the route for me to get into the kind of feature film level. And then at feature films, as a producer as well, you don't want to have just one project. There's no point going to try and just push to death one project because, like I said, sometimes projects aren't, it's not the project's fault. It's not the packaging. It's not the people that are involved. It's just the wrong time. And it just takes more time for it to click. So what are you going to do in the meantime? You're just going to wait 3, 5, 10 years for this project? Or are you going to do other stuff? Of course, you want to do other stuff. You want to keep honing your skills. You want to obviously expand your network. You want to expand your investor base. And that's what you need to do. You just need to have a number of different projects which are nearly or ready to go, packaged up so that financiers, sales agents, distributors can go, oh, actually, yeah, we're looking for that type of film right now. There's a demand for it. Oh, actually, this is really interesting. I like these type of films. And you go, oh, I've got a drama that I really want to get off the ground. They're like, I don't like dramas. I want thrillers. And you're like, oh, I've got a thriller. And they're like, yeah, love that. Let's do it. But it takes a few different projects for then people to take you seriously and people to go, oh, yeah, they're a producer. That's it. It's done.
I asked Nathaniel what it was like producing Criminal Audition when there's quite simply not a great deal of money to play with.
I produced Criminal Audition alongside Luke and Sam. My involvement was, like I said, nuts and bolts logistics. Getting everything together, we had to kind of organise the shoot location, which is obviously the main thing. Cast and crew, times, call sheets, everything like that. Also legalities, insurance, the kit, organising and also negotiating on prices. And I say negotiating because the film we made was super low budget and we only had a limited amount of money to actually go into production. It wasn't a case of we've got all the money, we can do post, we can do marketing, we're good to go. It was like, we have enough money to go into production. Should we do it? And we were like, yes, let's go for it. Once we have the film, surely we can then get more money to do the rest and finish it off. And as history told us, that was true, which was great. So we kind of bricked it and just went, fuck it, let's do it. So we just jumped in. The budget was so tight. There was no push or pull or give. It was literally like, this is the allocation. We have to make it work. And one thing that we did, which is, I think, something that I would urge all kind of start out feature film filmmakers to do, is pay everyone favoured nations. And what I mean by that is that everybody gets the same wage from the ground up. The good thing about that is that there are no quabbles. If you go onto set and you know that everyone around you is getting the same amount of money, then you've agreed to do this project and you're passionate about it, there's no excuse, there's no complaining, there's no issues, right? So it mitigates that. And also it makes sure that everyone is as invested as you are. From Luke and Sam, who have poured their kind of heart and soul into the script and taken it from the humble beginnings of a theatre production all the way to a feature film. They are as invested as a camera assistant, and I think that's a great way to make sure that everyone's happy on set when you have such tight constraints. When we're talking about the kit and everything like that, it's about haggling, it's about making deals, it's about what other extra value can you offer. Can they do a case study for you, around the project that you're doing? Is that somewhere that they can get some value from you and you get more kit for free? With locations, like, okay, this is the ideal location, but cost like the entirety of the catering budget, so we can't go for that one. What way can we get around it? Is there any other routes or avenues we can go down? And it's so much creative thinking at every kind of step of the way. It's almost like you have to be constantly on your toes. The project itself was, again, collapsed in regards to length of time filming. We made it the tightest schedule that we could without killing anyone. But at the same time, we knew that we could actually get this film done.
So without much budget, how does the producer cater for cast and crew? Here's a day in the life for Nathaniel's on set of Criminal Audition. Prepare for a baked potato chaos.
One thing that I think so many filmmakers actually just forget about, or just go, oh, it's fine, but it's not, is catering. Now, yes, everyone's on the same amount of money, but if you have everyone on the same amount of money and at the same time you then go, hey, you know what, guys, here's a meal deal for the 10th time in a row, people are going to go, I'm sick and tired of this. I haven't got the energy to even work. I don't want to work. I don't care. I'm going, right? So we had to give the crew and cast who were working literally their tits off proper food. Of course, we don't have a catering budget to allow for a catering truck or even a catering manager or even a chef or somebody to be dealing with it. So guess who deals with it? Me. So I would talk you through one particularly stressful day. This was the same day that we had to recast the actor. So in the morning, get in early, open up, make sure that everything's running, wash up anything previously from the night before, check that the toilets are all stocked up with toilet roll and everything like that, and they're clean, ready for our cast and crew to arrive. Any emails or problems of people potentially late or stuck on the trains, dealing with that, making sure that the first AD knows so they can reschedule the day or move things around. Start with a pre-production meeting just with the key kind of crew members, just to kind of talk about what shots we're going to be creating and what we're going to be doing today, making sure everyone's happy, putting the, obviously before this, I forgot, we need to put the urn on so that there's hot water for everyone and there's also facilities to eat. Every so often as well, for example, on the Friday when I was like, okay, it's been a long week, I would actually drive into London onto set with a ton of bacon butties already pre-prepared that I'd made at home at 5 a.m. And that was just because we were like, I just feel awful that these people are having to come in and they're just having either toast or cereal every day for breakfast. And then we continue throughout the day. Throughout the day, there'll be certain problems. The makeup we've run out of something. We need some more kind of like, I don't know, VFX stuff, some glue or some shit, I don't know. They go like, can we get this? I go, okay, great, I have a runner. I go and send them off. Oh, actually for this, we were going to use, the camera department will come over. We were going to have we'll need an ND filter for tomorrow's shoot. I've just remembered. Oh, great. Okay, fine. I'll go and get that sorted. So I'm sorting that out. And then I go, shit, it's 10 o'clock. We're having baked potatoes today. Now, if anyone has ever cooked a baked potato, you know that it takes probably like, 15 minutes in the microwave or so. Yeah, nice chunky baked potato. It takes a long time in the microwave. So we've got 30 crew members, right? And I'm cooking a baked potato for each of them. Plus, I've got 2 microwaves, so that's good news. But it takes about 17 minutes per 2 potatoes in each microwave. And then I'm having to work around sound because obviously they can hear my microwave going off. So I start the day cooking frickin' baked potatoes at like 9 a.m. just so I can make sure that at 1 o'clock there is enough baked potatoes for everyone to eat. Then preparing by the kind of the snack area, so making sure that that's kept topped up with biscuits, with croissants, with fresh fruit as well. Then after lunch, clearing that away, tidying it up, getting ready for the next day, talking to the ADs about what the schedule is going to be for tomorrow, readjusting timings, making sure that everyone has a call sheet that they're happy with before we go home. Also, making sure that the actors' well-being is happy. They're all happy. They're relaxed. They're having fun. Sometimes I also had to take some photos because it is what it is. You need behind-the-scenes photos. You've got to get them done. There's no one here to take them today, so fuck it. I'll be taking them. That's fine. I'll take some photos. And then we get to the afternoon. There's always this afternoon lull. You know, after you come back after like a big carby meal, you've started working. It's a couple of hours in. You're like, I can't do this anymore. So then I'd come out with, we'd have a little cheeky tea break. But sometimes it had to be like it'd be 5 minutes while they're preparing the next setup, all right? So I'd go around with some biscuits, some fruit, just something to pick them up again, So a little bit of sugar burst, happy days, I could finish at the end of the day. Coming near the end of the day, I'm talking to the AD and they're saying that we're looking like we're going a half an hour over. So I'm like, okay, well, I need to discuss this with the crew. So I talk to all the crew members individually and the cast members. Are you happy? Are you happy? Yeah, I'm happy. I'm great. One person's not happy. Okay, fine. So how do we deal with this? Can we not work with that person? Or is there something else that they need? Is it the unhappiness because they're staying half an hour? I doubt it. It's not that big a deal. Or it's something else. So I need to find out what that thing is. So I find out what that thing is. I give them a compromise and they're happy, and now they're happy. We're great. So we've got everyone staying half an hour. We get it done. It's all good. We get to the end of the day. It's all wrapped. We've done all the shots we wanted to do today. People are happy. People are going home. The door on the front of the theatre which we're working in will not lock. It will not lock. I've been here since 6:30 in the morning. I am so tired. I just want to go home. The fucker is not what do you do? Like, right? So, we're getting chains and stuff. We're getting padlocks and just padlocking the crap out of it. And we just deal with it. Make sure it's safe and secure, and we'll deal with it another day.
And that's
just one day,
I
mean, I'd get home most days on Criminal, and I'd be sitting there just checking my emails until about 11:30 at night, just because there may be something that comes through, and every so often, most of the time, there was some question, some request, some things I can go fine, I can leave that till tomorrow, but other things are urgent. You need to be on it. You need to make sure that this is either organised or sorted for the next morning, and then we rise and shine and we start again.
In the next part, Nathaniel talks about his perception of film grants and how most of the time you just need a little bit of luck to get your film financially up and running.
My perception of the film industry when I first started was all sunshine and lollipops. I thought that, this was something that, I remember I've come from an acting background as well. So my idea of literally a day or a project would be going for a casting, getting the role, and then getting a time to turn up on set, getting kind of semi-pampered, to be fair, because actors really do, not knowing the full story, only knowing my part of what I needed to play in the story, playing my part, and then going home and cashing in my paycheck, happy days, and then potentially I'll come to the premiere and it's all good. But you don't realise how much more there was. One of the hardest things, and I think any filmmaker that doesn't think this is the hardest part of filmmaking, is money. It always comes down to money because, let's be honest, the film industry is a business, okay? It's like any other business, and it has to come down to getting money, making money, and paying people, right? And with that, obviously, comes legalities, comes with contract employment, comes with, insurance, risk assessments, etc., etc. So I think that was the bit about the film industry that I wasn't aware of really as a producer until you actually start doing the stuff. You just think, oh, well, the BFI, that's there for young filmmakers that don't know what they're doing, that just want to start making stuff. They've got real good passion, they've got vision, and they just want to make stuff. I think they are there for people, but they're not there for the amount of people that want to make stuff within the UK. And I think the projects that come out of grant-based systems like the BFI, they are all looking for projects which are not going to make money per se, but to make awards and to kind of say something about society, right? Which is fine, not a problem. But any time a project has even some sort of commerciality to it, it will get rejected because that's not what their remit is, which for me took me a number of years to kind of really fully understand and get to grips with. And I haven't got to grips with it. I've just accepted that that's what they do. Because in my head, even if you are a grant-based facility, this grant that you're getting, okay, is money. It's coming from somewhere. Now, how do you make money? You make money by making good films in the film industry, and people go and see it, or they buy it, or whatever, and you make more money. Right, great. So you reinvest that. Now, what I don't understand was the grant was coming from, National Lottery, other kind of base from the government. But surely if I was a government body and I was going, you know what, this grant is here for people to make films, I would go, yes, it should be about underprivileged voices. It should be from regions that don't have the access that potentially the South or London or the big hubs do. However, 80% can go there. The other 20% really should be focused on commercial projects which are going to make some sort of return, because otherwise you are literally feeding into a art-filled, project-based work which will never go anywhere and that will never actually have the viewership to bring money in. And I kind of think when you think about other countries that do the similar things, for example, France. Now, France is a great one because their They have a very similar kind of structure. They will make so many kind of art house and critically acclaimed films, which are fantastic. However, their cinemas are biased. They make sure that they allow only a certain amount of international projects in, and the rest are homegrown French films, which means that immediately your art house film has a viewership, has an audience, whereas in the UK, we just don't have that support. So they go, yeah, fine. If you finally get the money to make a grant to make an art house film that you're really passionate about, that doesn't really have much commercial value apart from a small, minute group of people potentially, there is not the viewership to make that money back. It's just fact. If you're creating something niche in any industry, there's always going to be less people because of the niche, right? So my view has changed from this kind of thinking of we go to these bodies to get money when we're young filmmakers, when we don't quite know what we're doing, we don't have the full backing of investment or any kind of track record of what we've done previously. That's what it's there for. It's not, and that's fine, and I've come to terms with it. But getting money elsewhere is an immeasurable and such a hard task, and I think, again, it just takes sometimes time. It takes obviously a lot of networking and just luck in a most point. You make a good project, you work hard, you get some accolades for the short film, and then you have this proof of concept, and sometimes it's just luck being in the right place at the right time. And that's a horrible thing to say, and I hate myself for saying it, but I genuinely know that there is not a roadmap to go, this is the way to get investment. It just doesn't exist. And it's an odd one because obviously every other industry has a specific road to investment, whether that is a loan, a bank loan. I mean, that was the old days, was a bank loan and pre-sales, and it was all good. But as kind of variety and production companies started coming up, there's like 360 plus production companies in the UK alone. All of those companies making a feature film, I mean, of course, you can't have bank loans coming out left, right, and centre because there's no way that you can name 360 plus, or even 350 for that matter, independent feature films that you've watched in the last year. Like, no one could name that because it's impossible. They're not there, right? So I go, yeah, of course, banks are not going to suddenly start giving out loans again because they can't afford to, because they know that the projects aren't going to make money back. So it's such a hard thing. It's so much perseverance, just being dog and blunt-headed and just go, you know what, I think this project is so good and I'm so passionate and also well-equipped, business-minded, that I can make this project work, that you're going to sit down, you're going to fucking listen to me, and also at the end of this, you're going to give me some money. Or if you can't give me money, you're going to introduce me to somebody who can. And that's another element of producing.
If you're in need for some quick fire advice starting out as a producer, keep your ears peeled for Nathaniel's words of wisdom.
The biggest lesson that I've learned in kind of filmmaking is the same lesson I've learned in being an adult, and that is that you, when you look up to a certain level and you go, oh, cool, they look like they've got it, they know exactly what they're doing, they are also treading water when you get to that level. And it's not until you get to that level that you understand that, oh no, okay, like every project is just getting a little bit bigger for them, So, and with each bigger project, with more money and more people involved, there are more complications, more problems, more things to think about. So I think it's always that you can never stop learning, that you can never kind of just sit back on your laurels and go, you know what, I've done 5 feature films. The second thing, again, I've talked about it previously, but it's money. It's money is something that makes the world go round, unfortunately. And within this capitalist society, which is absolutely fine, you need to get to grips and understand that you have to have a good relationship with money. And weirdly, obviously, everyone says, never put your own money in, never put your own money in. And I go, well, if you believe in your project so much, why would you not? And I've never actually been able to quite answer that yet. But I think part of the reason is because it doesn't matter how good the project is. It doesn't matter how well it's placed in the market. It doesn't matter who's involved, because time and time again, we've seen projects with incredible cast, incredible directors, fantastically produced, not do well. And sometimes it just doesn't, something doesn't click, something isn't right, and it's nothing to do with the project or the cast members or anything like that. it just doesn't work. It's put up against another film which is better, and it kind of just disappears. And so I think it's really difficult to say, yeah, go ahead, be a producer, make a film, fantastic, make another film, be great. You realize very quickly or very early on that once you've done your first couple of films, you understand the basic mechanics of how to make a film work, and obviously you hope that they're going to be profitable. But at that point, you then have to then do multiple films, because not every film will be profitable, and it's not always your fault. And I think even if it makes us money back, it's still no good, because investors are going to go, well, great, I've got my money back, but what's the point, you know? So I think at the end of the day, it's just understanding that, like anything, failures is something going to happen. You know, you will get rebuttals, you will get pushback left, right, and centre, and that's fine. And it don't take it to heart, because a lot of the time it's not you, it's not the project, it's just wrong timing. It's just not now. So have other stuff up your sleeve, you know, and at that point you will be able to, you know, you'll feel good because one project will shine and the other ones may just be plateau.
Do you know where your film is headed? Nathaniel gives us some pointers on how to think about your workflow.
When making a feature film, in an ideal world, you want to go, yes, I need to think about working from the back and forwards. You know, you kind of go sales, distribution, post-production, production, and what do I need to make that happen within pre-production and almost development? You know, that's when you're thinking about it back in development stage. However, like I said, it doesn't, like, you know, I mean, no project goes the right way that you want it to go. You can put all the planning in the world. I'll talk back about Criminal Audition. With that, we had the money to make the production only. So there was no thinking ahead. There was no post-production. There was no anything at this point. We make the film, we have a proof of concept because we've got the damn footage in our hands, and we can go, look, this is the film. It's not polished at all, but you can see it's a film, right? Give us more money, we'll make it polished, it'll be great. And luckily, people believed in us, and we managed to finish it off and sell it, and that's great. But ideally, you want to start with, where is it going to go? Who is your audience? Like, what is the point of making a film if you know at the end of the day, no one's going to watch it apart from yourself, the crew, the cast, and potentially friends. I would say, obviously, your family have to watch it because otherwise they're just horrible people. And you kind of go like, what's the point, really? Like, you've put literally blood, sweat, time, effort into this film, which has taken years, and no one's going to watch it, you know? So when you first do your feature films, you need to know that it's going to go somewhere. But when it's first the beginning, you've got to know, where is it going to finish up? Urge people to work backwards. You know, think about the very, very, very end user. Are people going to sit down and watch it streaming? Are they going to, is it going to be a kind of a limited theatrical release? Is it going to be a full theatrical release? What do you need to make that happen? You know, a limited theatrical release, you just need some money for marketing. You need some money to put the project on in the cinemas. And then you just need a lot of time and effort, right? But if you're going for actual theatrical release by a distribution company, why would that distribution company put all that money, marketing, and time and effort into distributing your film theatrically when it's going to make a loss, probably, for the most part, if it doesn't have the names or the star power to get bums on seats, right? So you've got to work realistically and you've got to work backwards, because it will inform your decision back in development. If you're going, this film is a horror film, and you know what, it's going to be great in cinemas, it has to have an audience in cinemas, you may need a star power or a little bit of star power that has favour with audience members, which have that you go, oh, you know, it's got them in. I'm always going to go to a film with that person in. That people are like that. People will always go to, you know, if there's a Tom Cruise film, they'll go, oh, I'm going to go to the Tom Cruise film because I love Tom Cruise. I'll go to the cinema. I'll go out of my way, because it is out of your way, let's be honest. If that star power doesn't have that, then it's going to live on some other platform, streaming, whatever. So you then need to adjust your expectations, and sometimes that also means adjusting the budget, adjusting the allocation of budget, adjusting the scope. So it's always best to work the end product and work backwards.
I asked Nathaniel for his views on the UK independent films industry. He also offers up some useful tips on how to get the best out of your conversations with sales agents.
Independent filmmaking in the UK is I would say a lot harder than other countries. I think we have a skewed kind of a view on it because you look at all of the stuff that comes from America and we go, oh, wow, that was an independent project. That's amazing. And you kind of go, well, yeah, the UK, look at the size of it, look at the amount of investment. Of course, America are going to be producing bigger stuff, which will also be classed as independent. So I think it's a lot harder to get out there. Plus, as well, like I said previously, it's about the end product. Yeah, an independent project in America, there's so much more opportunity to get your project out there. When you're making a feature film in the country of origin, you want your country to really push that up, right? You want to push it up into the kind of world standings before you start going elsewhere. You need to understand exactly what sales agents are selling, who's buying, and what they're buying. They may not give you like full information, but if you have some specific questions that you want answered, I would just, go through Google, find the person that you want to talk to and just give them a call, give them an email and just pester them until they answer you. And I think that's when you get the answers you want. And by the time you're in with one, then it doesn't take long before you kind of understand the way they talk, the way they kind of, the kind of lingo, let's say. If you have an idea of a project that you want to make, you think it has an audience, then make the film until you get to a point where you can be pushing out films in quite quick succession or production, depending on the trends that are happening within the industry. But before then, you just have to know that the film is going to be received at some point and it has a big enough audience viewership that will make you your money back. Make the film. Do it.
To finish up, Nathaniel gives us his final thoughts on where movies and the film industry fit into the chaos of COVID.
COVID has obviously changed the landscape for a lot of industries, and film is no different. Once we got past the issue of having to actually film or how to film, and the guidelines to put in place to make sure everyone's safe and secure, then you're met with the next challenge, which is obviously massive films, big Hollywood blockbuster films are still going to be making their films. They still need cinemas to stay alive. Or do they, we would say? Because obviously we have Mulan coming out in, I think it's end of September or maybe early October. And that's gone straight onto Disney+. So that has rocked quite a few cinema chains a little bit because such a big release of a Disney classic. I think trends were starting to push cinemas into a space where things were going on to VOD, things were getting produced internally. And now I think this has just expedited the process. COVID has just made sure that people will sit at home and watch a film, as we've seen. Like viewing and viewership has gone through the roof since they had nothing to do to sit at home. And I think all it takes is a few bits of habit and trend, and that will continue. Whereas it's going to take a little bit more time for people to want to go back to cinemas. And when they go back there, they're going to be weighing up, one, I have subscriptions with a lot of different VOD platforms. So do I want to go to the cinema and spend money? Two, I get to the cinema, it's fucking expensive. Why am I spending so much money here? And three, was the experience as good as the time, the planning and the money spent going to the cinema? It's not as simple as going, you're sitting at home, you finish cooking a meal and you're like, oh, cool, I had some films I wanted to watch. I really fancy watching a film. I just chuck one on. That's easy, right? So I think all it's done is it's just sped up the process which was happening anyway, which meant that cinemas had to diversify. We were seeing a lot more films which were getting released in cinemas and also released on VOD at the same time. Netflix was trialing that with a number of its films. I don't know if it worked or not. I mean, people were watching it on both. So they make the money through their viewership and how many people subscribe to them, right? So for them to release it into cinemas, this was just a kind of box-ticking exercise or almost a marketing ploy to one, potentially get some awards during award season because it has to be released in cinemas, and two, just to see if they can and see how that impacts and whether more people would then subscribe due to that. So I really don't know what the future holds for cinemas. I think the everyman, the Curzons, the smaller cinemas will do better. The bigger ones, the multiplexes, they're going to be in it for a tough time. I mean, they've already fallen out because they've decided to go straight to VOD rather than go to cinemas. And I don't know, I feel at the end of the day, let's be honest, the big Hollywood production houses and the VOD platforms are at this stage going to win over the cinemas. The cinemas don't have the power and control that they used to do. So it's going to be an odd time moving forward, and I think we're going to see, like many other businesses, a lot of cinemas just going under and being empty spaces. But potentially some may diversify. Obviously, Christopher Nolan pushed Tenet through. and wanted that to be a worldwide release in cinemas. So there will always be cinemas for the time being, but who knows how long and how many they're going to be left in the next year, let's say. But really, an indie filmmaker isn't actually too worried about what's happening in cinemas because, like I said, 80, maybe 70% of indie films that are made are not with the view to go to cinema. They should be. They cost a lot of money to do so. And there was obviously a benefit to that because you got a big readership and you got the kind of the figures to, and also just to show with these platforms, the VOD platforms, that your film is a proper film, like it's been in cinemas. You know, it kind of gave it that kind of credence, a stamp of approval. But I don't think VOD platforms need that anymore. They've obviously shown that people aren't going to the cinemas with a blip. And yes, it was a pandemic and it was a big blip, but people didn't go to cinemas. It just stopped. And they kind of went, okay, well, life goes on for us. We're still releasing films. Why would that change? They're still going to need that. So there will be a slight dip in the amount of production made, but I think they'll be hungrier than ever. And I think the risk will be people will be throwing themselves back into filmmaking, amassing tons of kind of debt with investors to make films. And there'll suddenly be this point where, let's say next June, July, there's 1 million films all wanting to be distributed, and there's only going to be 1,000 spaces. And I think that, again, could be another make or break period. So I think we're not out of the woods as filmmakers yet. There is a trajectory which is looking good, but it all depends on I guess, how things pan out. And it's such a big unknown that I think you just kind of have to believe in the project, but also have a backup, because at the end of the day, you just don't know. You know, some huge multinational corporations that were not film industry films or anything like that, they've gone under. And so, you know, yes, indie filmmaking is a lot lighter, a lot leaner. It's still quite easy to just disappear off the landscape as well. So I wish I had an answer. I'd love to have a crystal ball and just go, you know what? This is going to be great for us, but I don't know. I think it's going to be good and bad, and it depends on the sheer amount of films that are made.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you like this episode. If you like this podcast, don't forget to subscribe, rate it, and share it. If you want to find out more about our podcast guests, join the Filmmaker Stories Facebook page and follow JB Audio Post Production on Instagram. Help us grow and help filmmakers to make movies. Till next time.